Nick, we were talking before the show
Pistachios
about
first.
talking to police, and
Don't do it, but yes.
oh, that's every expert I've ever seen on YouTube or talked to in person gives that same advice. Say nothing. If they're colorful, they'll say shut the fuck up, right? That's the advice we always get.
Right, shut the fuck up Fridays from the Justice Brothers.
I know them. Yes, yeah. All right. But on the other hand, we've all had experiences where, you know, the cop pulls you over speeding and you're like, yes, I spilled the milk. I'm so sorry. I don't typically spill milk. I'm not a habitual milk spiller. This one exception. I made a mistake. And, you know, if you could see fit to let me off with a warning, I'm the sort of guy who deserves it. This isn't me. This is what I think police want to hear when they pull you over. I made a mistake. This isn't who I am. Can we let it slide? If you just say, I don't talk about my day, I don't like police, I don't answer questions, you're probably going to go to court. You're not going to talk your way out of it.
Yeah, it kind of depends on the feel you get from the cop. I've run the gamut of cop interactions. When I was driving home from law school one day, because I went to school at night, and I was driving home, and it was 2 hours away. So I was getting home. It's like 1 a.m. And I was so close to my house, and the speed dropped from 65 to 55, and I just wasn't paying attention. I was dead tired, and I was probably going like 70 or something. And the guy pulls me over, and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, I just got out of law school. I'm tired. I'm sorry. Right. And he's like, yeah, it's fine. You know, I know you just missed the signs. Like, I'm like barely alive. Just my house is a mile and a half from here. Can I just please go home?
To be honest, officer, this is akin to drunk driving. I'm so tired.
It's like, he's like, yeah, just get out of here. I just want to make sure people are staying safe. And that was fine. Like, and you could kind of tell from his demeanor that it was okay. You know, but so people kind of take this advice, don't talk to the cops, really, really literally. And you should. I mean, if you really want to protect yourself from a ticket, not talking to the cops is the best way to protect yourself. But what you're talking about isn't protecting yourself, right? What you're talking about is basically being candid and just asking for a little bit of mercy. And that's a way to do it. But on the other hand, I got pulled over by a really pissed off cop, and I was definitely speeding. The problem was I thought I was on a different road because I kind of spaced out. Did that thing where like you get into hypnosis, and I thought I had already exited onto the faster highway. And so I was just driving like I was on the other. So I was speeding like 10 miles over the other limit. And so I'm like 15 over this one. Cop pulls me over. He goes, you know, I pulled you over. I was like, no. He says, do you know what the speed you were going? No. You know what the speed limit is? Nope. Do you know where you are? Not at all. And then he gave me a warning. He's like, okay, because he couldn't actually tag my words to pin me down to a ticket. And this guy was pissed, right? Like he came up to the car. He was hot. He was angry. He's like kind of huffy. And I was like, well, I guess I just gotta say no to literally everything he says. Because otherwise what you get is you get an admission. Yeah, I know. I thought it was only 5 over or whatever. You're still speeding. That's still an admission of guilt. And once they can write that down, that statement from you, they've got you in court. Like you're not going to go into court and win. But if they have to go in and prove it, you know, maybe what you do is you go in there and you ask the calibrations, the calibration record of the machine. You check the weather. Was it really cold? Could that interfere with the radar gun? You start asking for all this stuff, and it becomes really expensive for the cops to get $130 out of you. And they don't fight as much. So like for actual legal protection, saying for my advice on getting pulled over is just say no to anything. It's not illegal to not know how fast you're going. It's not illegal to not know what the speed limit is. And it's not illegal to not know what road you're on. So you can safely say no to all those things. Your results may vary. But
I feel like I'd be like, no. And he'd be like, here's your ticket. Fuck.
When I got arrested, it was a long time before they asked me a question that I didn't feel comfortable, like at least replying to. Because for a long time, there was no sort of like, oh, do you think maybe this happened and that happened? We weren't talking about what was happening. I was like, can I get a smoke? First of all, I knew the cop, one of them. And I was like, Jimmy, can I get a smoke? It's like, yeah, come on, let's get in my car. Like, they're not handcuffing me yet. I hung out in his car for half an hour while they got their warrant and smoked. But it was like an hour and a half later, but when we were sitting at a desk somewhere, I was like, I think that's where I stop answering questions and start, sending it to my lawyer. Y'all need to talk to him because I don't know anything about any of that.
Well, that's the move, right? Police are very, very good interviewers. They do it all the time. So they get very, very conversational with people. They get to know them. They're like, hey, we're just trying to help you out. What's your name? What's going on, man? And they encounter people who are usually in a rough spot in their life. Lots of people, depending on the type of crime that they're encountering, but lots of people are encountering crime because they're in a bad place. And so the cops get really good at sort of that diffusion, build rapport really quick, like a salesman, and kind of get conversational. It also helps them get those answers that they're looking for. So that's one thing to remember, is that they're very good at this, and you typically are not very good at answering that type of stuff, because you might only get arrested one time in your life if or for a lot of people it's never. Some people get really good at it, right? You live in the right hood.
But they've got a script. Like they've done it. They do it every day.
Cops and like officers of various federal agencies have always been some of the more friendly and personable people that I've met. And it's like, man, under different circumstances, I'd really like you, dude. Like that. I almost always walked away from like my dealings with cops, at least good cops, and with thinking like, seems like such a nice guy. I wish we weren't on the opposite ends of this one. I wish I knew something about those.
In another world, we could have been friends.
For real. Yeah.
It serves their purposes really well too, because, if they're approaching someone who's in distress, they have a weapon, maybe they don't know what this person's up to, right? They don't know what they're capable of. They're coming into a situation. It's much better most of the time to lead with some kindness and be approachable rather than come in, full force jackboot. Otherwise, they might get shot or stabbed. The person might have some murder suicide intention. You never know what that person's up to. But if they can calmly approach them safely, they don't see a weapon or whatever, that's a beneficial way to do things and to keep the situation cool before whatever happens next. And they may have plans to arrest that guy in the most rough way possible. But it's always good to start off like, hey, what's going on, buddy? How you doing?
What's going on with what are you doing with both of those guns? Is one not enough? Like talking about this, like responding to cops made me want to ask, like, you must be very familiar with the sovereign citizen people who are like, I am a boat and you cannot impede my naval traversing of this great naval empire.
I still do not understand how they say they're not a person.
Is that just a section of YouTube videos where I've been had and it's little skit?
No, these people are very real. And a lot of cops perceive them as extremely dangerous. And the problem with it, and I hate siding with the state on something like that, but they really are. I mean, they can be quite dangerous because they do not recognize any authority over them. I mean, they say that they live under the Articles of Confederation because the Constitution wasn't properly ratified at the time or something like that. So they're free citizens who live under the Articles. They're just travelers on the land. They're never driving, right? They're always just navigating their land boat or something.
These people rock.
You should have a more boat-looking car.
And the I'm not a person, or like the separation of the person and their corporate entity comes from this weird idea that birth certificates tend to be printed in all caps for the names. And so they say that is actually a corporate person that's created as a legal fiction in the United States, and that's how the United States has jurisdiction over the citizenry, is through its corporate personhood. So they just deny their corporate personhood. That's not me. My name doesn't come in all caps. I don't recognize that name at all. So therefore, you don't have authority over me. They'll keep saying this as they're getting handcuffed, as they're going before a judge, and as they're being locked away in prison. Like they will swear to God that the U.S. has no jurisdiction.
I am the individual known as Kyle, not the person Kyle. Or they'll say some nonsense gobbledygook like that. And the judge is like, well, I'm locking up the person, the individual, the Holy Ghost, and everything else of Kyle. You're going to jail, sir.
And if you would you could go ahead and write a letter to the corporation from jail and get them to trade places with you, and that would be just fine.
Yeah.
But that's a real thing. And the most recent, like, really prominent instance of that was Daryl Brooks, the Waukesha parade driver who ran over the like kid and the old ladies and stuff like that. Yeah. He was a brand of sovereign citizen that made some of those arguments in court. I mean, the entire premise of his defense was, where is the plaintiff? The plaintiff in the case he was alleging should be the state of Wisconsin, but the state of Wisconsin isn't a person that can show up. And to him, all lawsuits required two people, rather than having a representative agent of the state, which would be the district attorney who was prosecuting him the whole time. So he was making those arguments and trying to do the sovereign citizen thing on national television after killing 6 people. It didn't work well for him, though.
I wouldn't imagine.
So that's my question. Why does has it ever worked well for anyone?
There's like,
that'd be interesting.
The way it has worked is always has nothing to do with the sovereign citizen aspect of it. So like the way it'll work is they'll say, you don't have jurisdiction over me. And it turns out that they're being tried in the wrong district of federal court, or they're in a state court where it should be a federal charge or something. And so like these little procedural victories that have happened throughout the years get used as bolstering evidence that if you just say the right magic words and incantations, that the judge will have to realize that they're wrong and drop the case against you.
Yeah.
But it's never practically worked, right? With like we're talking where there's a real crime, felony level, and someone's like, no, you just don't have the authority over me. The plaintiff isn't present. And you can't present him. The judge's like, you know what? Shoot, I never thought of that. I guess
some of that like Harry Potter magic, like,
yeah.
And because of this, I'm awarding you freedom. Like,
you'll be his butler.
For bravely defying the laws of consent, I award Hufflepuff 50 points. Like,
Police Activity is one of the best YouTube channels out there, and I watched one the other day. One of these sovereign citizens was getting pulled over, and he had a rap sheet, like something was going on. Maybe he was on a suspended license or no insurance. It was like multiple things. It's like, hey, you're coming with us kind of situation, or at least you're not going any further, and you're coming out of that car. And he's like, nope, I'm a fucking sea captain. I'm the admiral of the 5th Fleet of fucking horse shit. And I'm
needing to board to get to me, mate.
And so he fucking set sail up I-9 and they got his ass and beat the shit out of him. They smash his windows, pit maneuver, whatever, and drag him out of the fucking car. And it's like, all right, Admiral, you're going in, matey. And it just never works. But they seem so adamant about it that I can only imagine that maybe in some little town somewhere they spoke fast enough and talked about the 5th Fleet enough that somebody was like, man, I'm not taking you to the jail. You're going to be more trouble than you're worth, and just let them continue sailing down the road.
Yeah,
like it must have worked sometime.
They have the confidence of the Black Israelites, who are out there just like not a shred of doubt. They're like, I am the Jew and you are not. And they're like, not a shred of doubt. They know in their minds, they know that they're, I guess, both sides of the Egyptian Jewish slave thing. Like, I don't know how that part works.
We enslaved ourselves. That was power.
Yeah. It was a mishap.
Those pyramids were made by skilled laborers who were paid.
How do you know that? Huh?
He was there.
Because no. There's like records of like what their meals were. There's like menus preserved of that show like what they were ordering and eating on the work sites. Like,
did it
these
look
were
good? Like did it say what it was?
Yeah.
Did you read what it was?
I read it. I translated the hieroglyphics to Greek. And then I found a cuneiform expert. He came in, looked at my tablets, and
I assume the article you read said like, and they
unfortunately he was Korean, so I needed to further translate the evidence. But yes, no,
this all checks out. That's where Kyle got his scrolls.
Do you remember that Japanese like game show competition where they put guys in a sauna and the last man standing like won a ton of money and this guy's flesh is like melting off their bodies? You ever see that shit?
What?
No.
Yeah.
No,
Did they have to like do activities in there? Because that sounds really
No,
boring.
you just got to bear it. So what you may think, oh, it's just a sauna, but like, you know how your fingers get pruny? If I take a shower for too long, my fingers get pruny.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and it's uncomfortable to me. Like expand that out over the course of like a day or so, and they're getting steam cooked in there, and their hands, like the flesh is sloughing off. It's really disgusting, and they're just
How much money are they winning?
like 8,000 yen.
$60 bucks.
Even,
$60
8,000 yen. I think I paid 30,000 yen for hair
For
gel
breakfast.
when I was there.
Yeah. I have no idea.
They're
No
all
idea.
about honor. They love honor. And they
no
hate
idea.
comfort.
With inflation and everything, there's no telling. But the answer is there's no amount of money worth getting steamed alive, though, right?
I remember.
Of course, how are you going to use the money?
I remember reading about the guy who won like one of those competitions. This wasn't a Japanese one. He was like a proper Norseman or whatever. But it was like 160 degrees that he was in this stupid sauna for a long time. And the second place guy died. It was like, well, that's why he got second, I guess.
Yeah.
He didn't
but
even win.
And it's like, dude, I don't want to be in a sauna more than about 5 minutes anyway. Like it's just and they just sat there like, no, I'm good. I'm fine. I can do this. Like, it's not about like how tough you are, man. This is biology. Like you just die. Like
You're
there's
cooking
nothing
yourself.
there's not
Like-
training for this. It's just
Like
how
that
much water did you
temperature.
drink?
230. He was in 230 degrees. I have smoked ribs at a lower temperature than
I
that.
don't.
Wait,
230 is not accurate. Like
110 degrees Celsius. In the final stage of the event, it required contestants to sit in a 110 degree Celsius room as water was tossed onto a searing stove. 230 degree sauna championship ends in tragic death.
I'm having a hard time.
Tragic, unexpected, really? Bullet catching competition goes awry. Like, what the fuck?
yeah,
else?
I'm baffled by that.
Johnny No Fingers loses again.
I'm gonna link this. Look how hot this guy looks. He's so hot.
Oh my god,
I don't know what I'm expecting.
they're both hot. I didn't realize there were two in there with the reflection.
Of course.
He's like just sitting there trying to will
It's
yourself.
awful. Oh, it's awful. They're so red.
Miserable.
They look like the hot dogs at the gas station.
Kyle, can you last longer in this sauna or an ice bath?
In the sauna, and because like the ice bath was just going to kill you. Tomato.
Tomato.
All right, so they'll both kill you, but like
Six in one hand.
yeah,
half
I guess-
dozen.
I guess my question is like describe the ice bath. You know, like here's the thing.
like a horse trough filled with lots of ice cubes. Is there another kind?
Yeah, but like how much ice to water, and like you know what I mean? Like it really matters how much ice is in there. If you pack me in ice, then I'm probably gonna I'm gonna lose fingers
Burn.
and toes in the next little bit, right? Like if you just packed me in ice and then added water to
Yeah.
that, I think that
Right.
kills me pretty fast. Like 20 minutes, I'm dead. And I think I last longer than that in there. But if you just throw me in like a traditional ice bath like athletes would use that has, I don't know, maybe 1/4 ice and then the rest is water they fill in, as long as you sit very still, you'll form this thermal barrier around your body where your skin is warming the liquid that's touching you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that'll be slightly warmer than everything around you.
I
If
didn't
you
know
really
that.
want to like take it, when you see somebody sitting there and just not moving, they're not being hard. The guy who gets in there and thrashes, he's getting some effects. He wants to be cold.
Some of the guys thrashing are doing it because they can't resist and they're hurting themselves without knowing it.
They're
Yeah.
weak.
It's the same with hot tubs. I went to a hot spring in Colorado, and one of the tubs like 117 degrees. It was way too fucking hot.
Mhm.
And I sat in there and I was like, if I don't move, everything's okay. But when you moved, it was like, yeah. It's like, oh god, it's hot. But you got to just sit perfectly still. And it was fine. But man, I don't want to. I'm too old to sit in extreme heat or cold at all. Like, what is the point of that anymore? Like, I could just sit on a couch.
$60 at stake, dude. $60.
Unless you're an elite athlete.
8,000 yen and a date with Miss Toyota. Come on, let's go.
I always loved that when like when Ninja Warrior was still Japanese, like they didn't have the American Ninja Warrior, and you watch these guys like train for an entire year to do the most grueling course like you've ever seen, requiring just massive amounts of grip strength and these physiques that are impossible. And they're like, what do you win? It's like they win their honor. It's like, what the fuck is that? These guys, they give up their whole lives and like start building these courses in their backyard to do finger pull-ups all day long. And then what they win is just like, you did it. Great.
Yeah.
Cool.
They're so honor focused over there. You must be great to be a game show producer where they're like, I did it. I ate every scorpion. And they're like, okay. Like, what do I win? He's like, you win the honor of eating a raw scorpion.
You are the Scorpion King.
The Scorpion King.
Oh, hell.
You are not entitled to financial compensation.
Now go to the hospital.
Yeah, now go to the hospital, retard. You held more jellyfish than anyone before. And it's like, yeah,
I have a legal question because this keeps. It's not a good one, but anyway, here's the deal. The police finally.
Everybody listen. He's got a question.
Yeah. So the police finally found out about all my murders, right? And here I am being questioned, and I say, you know what? No more questions. Talk to my attorney. But low key, I don't have an attorney, and I don't know how to choose one. I'm in the room. I have maybe one phone call. What do I do? Google Maps? Like what?
No, they'll bring you a phone book,
and then you just use that to choose your attorney.
Find one.
We just got to get out of the room, right? Like you just need a guy that gets
you just
bail,
turn
right?
to the Jewish names and hope for the best.
Just don't go to the first one because that guy's just there because his name starts with A.
Yeah,
he probably changed it to that.
God, I got fucked. I went with Aaron Aronson again.
But no, it's yeah. I mean, if you can't get an attorney, you know, they have to stop asking you questions, and you can petition for a court-appointed attorney at that point too. Say, hey, I don't have an attorney. I need an attorney for this. I don't have an attorney. You know, you're under arrest. They can't just keep you without providing that. If you qualify, you can't just lie. Like, well, I got $100,000 in the bank. I can't afford an attorney though. They're like, okay, well, here's one. No, but if you go through the same process that you would get for a public defender, and they'll get an attorney for you if you need to. But otherwise, they'll bring you a phone book and say, here you go. Call whoever you want out of this thing. But
that's what they do.
The other thing, cops, when you invoke your right to remain silent or your right to an attorney, they have to stop interrogating you. But the trick is not everything they do is an interrogation, right? They can start talking. And the most common thing they'll do is talk to their friend next to you about whatever, to try and coax you into saying something about, like, to correcting them. No, that's not what happened. And then the interrogation can continue because now you've injected yourself into the conversation. So that's the hardest thing for people to say. I'm shutting up. I want to talk to my attorney, nothing else. And then they just don't, like, they sit there and they're like, no, I mean, he had it coming. They have to give you the opportunity to get an attorney. You don't have to have an attorney, although you should. Like, if you're a gun owner, for example, you should have an attorney that you know deals with those types of things, that you can call if you get arrested for something, especially like a self-defense shooting or something like that, or your gun gets confiscated. You're at a bar, you're involved in a bar fight, and they're like, oh, you can't have this at the bar. Whatever it is, you should have an attorney who's familiar with those issues as a gun owner, because it will help you rather than calling up the guy in the phone book, right? Like, you don't want that guy. You want the guy who knows what he's doing. And
it won't cost you a ton to just go to a guy's law office and get his card. You know, you don't have to have a gun retainer. You just have to figure out who the guy is and have his business card in your wallet.
It seems like bullshit that public defenders aren't available for wealthy people. Like, Firemen are available for wealthy people. They don't say, you know what, you could afford a fireman, therefore we're going to charge you. They don't say that about police. They don't have toll roads that ask for your 1040s and say only wealthy people have to pay these tolls. There are very few government services where they restrict them from you, where they say you can't have this because you could buy it privately.
Public defenders are the equivalent of welfare. It's like you can't get anyone here to speak for you.
That's a strong point. It's bullshit that welfare is not available to wealthy people.
I want some. I heard Chicago's got that $500 universal income coming, and it's like right off the top, huh?
500 smackers.
500 smackers every year, I hope.
That'll get my heroin addiction going. It's fine.
$500 a month. Like that'll buy all my drugs. And they're legal there, so like we're getting somewhere already. No, Chicago's scary. I would hate to. I love the food in Chicago, but every time I don't know, look into the shootings there, it's the Wild West, and it just doesn't get reported. It's a scary place.
You definitely gotta not go in. Like, there's a couple neighborhoods that you just stay away from as much as possible. Just hang out by rich people. They don't get shot in Chicago.
You can listen to the police scanners of anywhere in the country. When there's websites that allow you to do this. I know, because I remember when the Boston bombing happened, we were so plugged. I don't think there had ever been a news story that we were so personally injected in, because I had my laptop open with multiple police scanners going when they were looking for the last guy, when they were having like the shootout and standoff or whatever, where one of them died by getting ran over by his brother or whatever. There's Arnaev guys. And I'm listening to all the bands, and they're like, yeah, we're going down Smith Street. Like, you can listen to them coordinate and like move in on this shooting. And like, it was so cool to be that far ahead. You do that and you tune into Chicago any night of the week. Holy shit. It's rough stuff. It's every couple minutes. There's something. And like, if you're a cop, it's like, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be a cop, period, but that's a war zone.
Yeah, no, it's terrifying. And when you see the murder statistics coming out of Chicago, you have to realize like 4 times as many of that were actually shot. Like, that's just the people who died from it. Like, because when you look at gun crime throughout the country and you look at the amount of gun murders versus the amount of like gun assaults, it's massively higher. And so you think about that and you're like, damn. If you were just in South Chicago for the night, just with the mic out, all you just hear is pop, 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 pop. Every couple minutes. Ugh, what a mess.
Is it that bad? Is the shooting in Chicago really that extreme? I so many times I question what I'm seeing on the news, and I don't know what the score is. Like, you can watch Fox News and they'll tell you the city of Chicago, the city of New York, they smell like urine and poop. The subways in New York are covered with human excrement, that it's this big mess, that the whole thing is terrible. And like, I've been to New York. It's not like that.
I think the U.S. is already at around 50 or it was either 55 or 65 mass shootings. That's more than we've had days of the year.
What's a mass shooting?
Exactly. Now look, I don't like it when they call any time. Do you know the exact criteria they use?
It's different. There's multiple definitions depending on the department and depending on the level of government. Like, if you're talking state governments versus federal.
I suppose the point is that oftentimes when you hear what's considered a mass shooting, most people in the public would go, that's not my definition. I would think maybe a little bit crazier than that. That being said, that is a real indication of the amount of multiple gun shootings there are out there. This isn't an instance of like an accidental discharge or like a police related thing. This is like a gunfight or something happened, right?
Yeah. So most mass shootings that are talked about, when they do that, where there's one mass shooting a day or 2 a day or whatever it is, that's usually it involves a shooting with 4 or more victims of some sort. And it doesn't involve deaths necessarily, right? So lots of this is connected to gang and drug activities in inner cities, because you'll have multiple people who are victimized by mass shooting. And I think under some of the definitions, if someone is injured by some other thing in the course of a shooting, it counts as one of the casualties or injuries for a mass shooting. But
Which
I was
makes a little sense. You know, you holding up 3 people, you hit one of them with the gun, you kick another one in the stomach, and she miscarries, and then you shoot 2 people. Let's say there were 5 victims to this mass shooting. You know, you've done crazy damage here.
Let's say I'm in a bank, I shoot one guy, and then 3 more get hurt as they stampede out the door. Mass shooting.
It depends.
Now we're getting back to Heather Heyer, right? And my thoughts on that whole fiasco.
Oh shit!
When she had a heart attack because that man was committing that act of terrorism.
Be very careful how you talk about that one.
I phrased it pretty well, don't you think?
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Yeah, James Fields.
I stay safe.
Yeah. To give you okay, so I pulled up the crime stats from Chicago PD. This is February 6th through February 12th of this year. There were 46 shooting incidents.
That's a long time.
In a week?
A whole week? Is it a leap year?
I mean,
6 a day. 6 a day.
It's a big town.
That is a pretty bad stat.
Yeah,
That's like Honduras levels of shooting,
right? And he didn't
So,
dig into the
say
worst
that, but
week in Chicago history. This is just last.
this is
week.
last week. Yeah, over the last 28 days, it's 152.
Yeah,
Which is down 4% over 2022.
yeah.
Good
There
job.
we go. You know, small victories. I'm sure that's not a statistical anomaly, and it won't surge right back. You know,
It's 2019, right? As the mayor of Chicago.
Okay.
So this crime statistics page, it has the percentage change over the past, last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So she takes office 4 years ago. Gun shooting incidents in Chicago are up only 58% since then. Just the 58% though.
58. That's like an F. It's not that bad. It's not like 100%. You know, that would be an A+ in failure.
You'd think she would have found a way to view the stats from a different angle or something, not exactly cook the books, but maybe just redefine certain crimes as other crimes and cook the stats a little.
I think they already do that, right?
Maybe they're doing that and still there's a 50% uptick. I don't know. It's scary.
Total crime is up 66%. The best one though is motor vehicle theft, which is up only 283% since she took office.
Jesus Christ. Is she holding stay in your homes, everyone? It's criminal party hour.
I was your top 3. You guys are looking at this from the wrong angle. As the cuck liberal in the group here, you're forgetting how many free cars are in Chicago now, right? You're looking at it like a victim. Man up, get yourself a car.
Just steal one.
Just right there. It's like those scooters. It's that new city scooter program. You just open a car and you turn it on, you take it. And you leave it where you go. Use someone else's credit card to pay for it. Put it in the slot.
Mm-hmm. That's the future of commerce. All stealing. Everything is stealing. And your wealth will be decided by agility and speed rather than hard work and stick-to-itiveness. Yeah, like the old days of the cavemen. Whoever threw the rock the best probably got the most pussy.
You think so?
Yeah, because he would have killed this competition with his good rock throwing.
And the women would be unconscious.
You ever see?
Well, they would have been so impressed by it. Like they would have wanted to get the best genes, the best rock throwing genes, so that their sons could, Yeah,
your way doesn't need an attorney.
No, my way doesn't need an attorney.
Well, it probably still does.
I love how within there's a little bit of having Nick on. He's like, if you just have a stats page pulled up, the way we do things here is that doesn't sound right, buddy. Hey, I'm giving that the old sniff test. No, I'm not looking into it. No, I won't Google it. Yeah, there's another monitor right here. I will not Google it. But it doesn't sound right to me. I wanted to ask what tips, I guess, other than the don't talk to cops thing, is there anything that a layman non-attorney should know that we all don't? Like one of those things, how professions are. A plumber knows all those tricks. Anything we should know about?
Yeah, I mean, most attorneys don't know shit about most law. There you go. That's one. Most attorneys, the most about law when you take the bar. When you take the bar exam. And then after that, your general knowledge of law goes straight off a cliff. And you start to find the things that you do and get paid for and you start to focus on those things. And you can become very, very good in those specialized areas. But that's why you like, oh, my brother's an attorney and he's like a tax attorney or like a corporate in-house counsel for press. Like, it's like, okay, well, that guy's going to be useless if you're getting a divorce. Like, you don't want that guy at all. You want to go to your specialization. I think people really underestimate how broad law gets and the amount of reading and research that you need to do to become extremely competent in a field is way out there. I mean, I know we're recording this, but tonight I'm going live. I'm being sued right now.
Oh shit! What's going on?
It's a long story, but it involves this weirdo named Montegraph, who's been kind of plaguing my channel for what was like 3 years ago. I did an interview with Mr. Medicare because Montegraph was suing this other guy named Jake Morfinos for defamation. And so we were just laughing at his lawsuit. And then I get a phone call from this Montegraph guy, like to talk to me about my interview with Medicare. And he was really pissed off. And so I was like, okay, you're stupid. And I didn't think anything of it. Well, then he starts like making memes about me. And he's like, I'm part of the sweaty sausage squad or whatever. Look, I don't know, man. He's a weird guy. And he does this. And so I started looking into him. And Medicare had been talking to me about it. He's like, he was an independent film producer and he produced this one movie called The Umbrella Man. And not to be confused with that Umbrella Guy, but The Umbrella Man is a fictional snuff film involving like a minor girl and all this stuff. And then he had this other video where he was like sexually assaulting a melon. Which is weird. He redid the 2 girls 1 cup video with a Barbie and a big pile of chocolate yogurt and stuff. And so it's a really strange guy.
Okay.
And he was like throwing all these memes and making videos. He's like, I'm gonna make you famous, Nikki. And I'm like, okay, all right. Like, I'm on YouTube. Let's make it happen. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah, you're looking for views.
And then he just disappeared after a while. And I was like, okay. Well, then come to October of last year, I get kicked off of YouTube completely. My channel gets deleted for 3 days. And he pops up in my Rumble chat talking about how he's the reason I got canceled and all this stuff, which wasn't true. I could tell you exactly why. It was an activist who I'd pissed off who got me canceled from YouTube. But he was claiming victory for it and all this stuff. And so I just started making fun of him. And now I'm being sued for making fun of him live on air when he came to my chat to like talk a bunch of shit. I was talking shit right back.
So what is the point of like a kind of lawsuit like that? Because as just a layman, it doesn't seem like that would go anywhere. Like, you seem to just be laughing at it. Like,
oh, well, it's ridiculous. It's a defamation suit and intentional infliction of emotional distress. There's all sorts of problems with the emotional distress claims in Minnesota. Like, to prove those out, you have to go get like therapy. You have to get actual mental health damage. You can't just say, well, I was distressed. I missed a day of work. Like, that's not how you prove that out.
Sure.
And he doesn't seem to have anything like that. I guess that could change if the suit goes on. But the defamation claims, it's loss of reputation. Typically that's associated with loss of income. Like, you get fired from a job or you miss out on a contract that you would have otherwise gotten. He hasn't really alleged anything like that. He just alleges generally lost income. But hypothetically, if me saying, hey, this guy was on YouTube having sex with a honeydew melon, and that caused him to not get a job with like a produce company or something, I guess he could claim damages that way. But the reason I bring up this thing in this subject very specifically is not just shameless self-promotion, but I could have fought this thing on my own. Like, I know how to fight a defamation case, but I'm not like a specialist. I'm just an asshole. And so I hired Mark Randazza, who's one of the premier defamation defense attorneys in the country. And he filed our motion to dismiss yesterday, and I'll be talking about it tonight. And when you read this motion to dismiss, it has extremely elaborate and intricate legal arguments I would had no concept of making. Like, the amount of research I would have to do to get to what their basic plan seems to be is monumental. It would have taken me, dozens and dozens of hours
to
even
even
come
kept
up
track
with
of how many
plan.
hours it took.
Yeah.
And he
attorneys are
sent me
great about that.
He sent me the bill for it, and it's not little. It's not little at all.
No, best in the country. I bet that's a premium.
It's not cheap, but yeah, it's the crazy thing is, the funny thing to me is that now Montegraff's lawyer is because I have a feeling he's never done a defamation case, and if he has done one, it's not like this. I know his lawyer, actually. He's a lawyer in my town that he hired, and I know him, and they typically do workers' comp claims, but the legal argument that just got dropped in his lap that he's going to have to research is going to cost Montegraff a fortune, which is hilarious to me. It's great. It's like, okay, let's see you pay for that one, Monty, because my lawyer like had that idea, I think, because he knows this area of law so well. Mm-hmm. Your lawyer doesn't practice multi-state defamation law. And now he's going to have to go into like conflict of laws questions because Montegraff's from Colorado and I'm in Minnesota, and he's suing me in Minnesota probably to avoid the anti-SLAPP statute in Colorado because we don't have one. However, like the conflict of laws arguments says that Minnesota courts should apply the Colorado anti-SLAPP to him because his damage would have been suffered in Colorado. What damage would this idiot suffer in Minnesota? He doesn't have like a Minnesota business.
Oh, okay.
So he's clearly forum shopping. And so there's a very good argument that the laws of Colorado should be applied to him. And now his attorney, who's a Minnesota attorney, is going to be trying to argue conflict of laws and that Minnesota state law should apply to keep the lawsuit even alive at this point. Otherwise, it'll get dismissed and I'll get awarded fees. And that would be catastrophic for, Montegraff. But, if you just hire some guy out of the book here in Minnesota, if I would have just gone to anybody who doesn't do specialize in defamation cases, and specifically like nationwide defamation cases, I'd just get a bog standard defense on defamation. The same thing I could type up, right? Yeah. As opposed to what
makes sense,
this
though.
guy's done.
It's the same thing with medicine, right? Like I bet doctors get annoyed all the time. They're at a party and someone's, hey, can you look at this? Can you look at this thing right here? And it's like, dude, I'm not that kind of fucking doctor.
I'm a podiatrist.
Which is true, but at the same time, there's a little, as a layman, you're as a layman, you're like, yeah, but you know what a fucking staph infection is. So stop being a little bitch about which school you went to for how long, and look at this boil or whatever. Tell me what it is. And the same thing with a lawyer. I'd want to be like, hey, will you look over this contract? Hey, I don't do contract law. Yeah, but you'd notice if somebody misspelled something. Like, come on, take a fucking look, dude. Give me a break.
And there's a huge difference between needing someone to just take a peek at something and give you kind of a general idea. And most contracts, like honestly, most contracts in most people's lives don't need that much work. Like they're basic agreements that go through. Now, when you get into commercial contracts, like you're going to lease out a space from a giant chain of commercial property owners, not like the guy in town who owns a building, but like this massive multinational place that owns buildings in every major city. And you're like, I just want my 1,000 square feet of retail. And then they give you the contract and it's 75 pages. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, yeah, you want a lawyer to look over that because you're going to get screwed if you don't go through and redline out a bunch of stupid stuff. But go ahead.
Do you often, or have you ever had good examples of where because you are a lawyer, you're able to be very annoying in sort of a malicious compliance kind of way in little middling disputes with people that normally it would make no sense to contact and hire a lawyer, but here you are, a lawyer yourself. So I'm thinking of like in The Sopranos that Tony wants to buy a house from the guy and the guy's already sold it to someone else, but the funds are a little held up. And Tony's like, I can come with cash now. And he's like, look, Mr. Chang, you're out. All right. I can torch you into the poorhouse. Okay. You're out. That's it. You want, and he's like, yeah, he is the lawyer. Like, this isn't going to cost him anything but his time to like make this guy's life a living hell. Mm-hmm. Has there ever been a time where you you could do that?
Oh, I do that. I do that all the time when related to my YouTube channel. Cause like I'll get copyright claims. Right. And so you know what you have to put into the copyright dispute stuff to comply with the copyright safe harbor provisions and make sure you're filing your counter notification properly. But you also know like how many times you can say "fuck you" in that thing to the person, and know that there's some corporate attorney who has to read the response that you get, where you're like calling NBC a bunch of sodomites or whatever. Like you could just because there's nothing they could do about you saying that. They just have to sit there and go, "God, this sucks." And then you're ultimately going to win your counterclaim because YouTube doesn't decide copyright issues. They just follow the DMCA process. So there's that. And then I will get, my favorite is getting cease and desist from lawyers on subjects that I'm talking about. Like if I'm talking about someone and their lawyer sends me a cease and desist because I said something that was offensive, or I released a document that I can only get these damn documents from a public website anyway, but they're like, you released a document that you shouldn't have had. And it's like, shut up. And so like, I just respond back to their cease and desist in the most belligerent way possible. And then I guess
thought you were gonna like build a fence next to your neighbor or something.
No, I don't.
Oh, your innocent, naive perspective. No, it's more intense.
No, I don't like messing around with that stuff because you don't want to mess with people. When people get in property disputes with their neighbors, it's like, do you really want this? Like every day of your life, you're going to have to wake up and deal with the asshole that you may have helped create. Mm-hmm. Like those are the types of disputes you should try as hard as you can and not have a lawyer come into it. Because once you do, they're done. Like they're not going to talk to you. Your mail is going to get left in the snow. Like they're going to just walk by your mailbox like, oops, just tip it out into the snow. Your mailman screwed up. They'll plow their driveway and just leave a big pile in front of yours. And, you don't want to mess with that shit.
You just brought up like the impetus to one of the scarier shootings we've ever seen. You might know.
That was awful. I know.
We've all seen the clip here. We watched it on the show. It's so hard to watch, but essentially neighbor had been piling their snow up, shoveling their own driveway out into the other guy's like drive, and the offending party and his wife are out there screaming at this guy. Guy goes back in the house, gets a gun, and long story short, he kills them both. He kills them both in the street over that. And it was snow.
It was not quick, and it was not like clean and pretty. It was not just like blam blam.
Yeah,
it was rough. That's a hard video to watch, man. I hate watching that.
If I recall that video, like after he murdered them, he like went back in his house like he'd just taken trash out. Like not even like I gotta get inside. Like just kind of walking.
He
back
said
inside.
so. I think he's.
I hope I didn't want miss more than the commercial break.
He kept saying, "Should leave. Should have kept fucking with me. You should have kept fucking with me." Yeah, like several times, and it's like, God damn.
Yeah, because she was still alive for a while. Like the woman was still alive for a bit, and he had to go like get a second gun. I think
he went and got a different gun. He started with a handgun. And he went back and got a rifle and finished them both off with a rifle. You see him basically put the rifle to her face by the end.
That's a horrifying video.
Ghoulish. Yeah.
Like I can watch a lot of bullshit, but it's like when
shovel your snow.
Yeah.
Shovel your snow, people. That's the lesson here.
Shovel your snow, assholes.
What was the fight about? Why did he shoot him?
They had TP'd his house.
They shoveled their driveway snow into his.
Into his driveway,
yeah.
Which is rude.
It's very rude.
You can't be doing stuff like that. But also in that video, I didn't see a big giant pile of snow in front there. It looked just as much like the guy who was driving by doing the pusher.
Much history. There was so much history there.
That wasn't their first bickering.
Yeah, there was so much history. No, I agree with you so much about like you can't have like a neighbor that you're in a dispute with. We gotta solve this. If you take the L and then bake cookies, dude. Like you're gonna need that guy to pick up a package or to fucking call it. He's gonna be the one that watches your house burn down, right? Like he's gonna be the one to not
drink the match in his hand.
Oh, looks like, hey, honey, look, Taylor's house is burning to the ground. What? Taylor's house is burning to the ground. Look. Oh, no way. And
he's like out in his like yard. He's the first one to know. He's like, help.
He's spraying his own lawn with a hose to make sure that it doesn't get scorched. Like that's all he's doing.
What are you doing? I'm on Ash Watch just in case they float over.
Yeah, just in case they float on Ash Watch.
You want to be friends with that guy. Yeah, that's the guy you need to do you a favor every now and then, right?
I've never had a dispute with a neighbor at all.
Right.
Like the only thing I could possibly think of, I did think about this the other day, is the neighbor on one of my sides in my like all my neighbors are in their 50s. So like I feel weird like talking to them like I don't know. Like neighbors. It feels bizarre.
You don't feel like you're their peer.
I don't feel like I'm a real adult because I'm the youngest. I'm like I live near a bunch of boomers for the most part, but they have a tree that is looming over my sunroom, like from their yard, kind of like that. And I was thinking just the other day, because I just paid to have a bunch of my trees removed. I'm like, what do I even do? Like, do I go over there and say like, hey, your tree is looming over my house. Could you take care of that? And then they'll probably say no. And I'll go, okay. Like what?
Do you mind
Nick,
if I take care of that?
Yes. Tell me
the
what's
follow up. Trees. So tree law is actually a specific piece of law that exists.
Is he bullied by the other attorneys?
You need him.
Dude,
I specialize in bird law.
Yeah.
No, he looks like the brawny man. He's got fucking big beard and an axe thrown over his shoulder.
Yeah, I want to know about tree law.
Here's the thing with tree law. Okay, so a tree is a piece of property, and some people really like their trees, right? So let's say you go to your neighbor's property and you just like it's blocking your view of the lake, and you're like, "Fuck this tree." Let's say it's a 120-year-old oak tree. So you just and chop that down. Don't even ask any questions. You go back inside. You say, "Shouldn't have done that," right? And then they're like, they sue you. What happens now is that you lose because you didn't have permission to fuck with their tree. It's clearly on their property. All the facts are in their favor. So you lose that case. Now you have to replace a 120-year-old oak tree. You don't replace a 120-year-old oak tree with a new oak tree. You have to get yourself a 120-year-old oak tree, or you have to come up with the financial compensation for it. Do you know how much that fucking costs?
I can't imagine.
To get a 120-year-old tree.
There's a guy who evaluates that.
Just scoop it out and put it back in the yard.
Bring it on a truck because it's not in the same town as you. And yeah, you got to bury it. And then in Minnesota, if that happens, you get triple damages on it too. So, I mean, you're talking cutting down a tree like that. You're in like a $250,000 proposition on damages that you end up paying.
You know what the most famous case of that has to be? That thing with Alabama and Auburn, right? Where the guy, I want to say an Auburn fan goes on like Auburn fan radio down there, you know, the good old boys radio. And he's like, oh, they think it's funny, huh? They think it's funny to make fun of the Auburn Bulldog or whatever they are. Well, I tell you what I did. I went up there the other day and I poisoned the red oak tree. And they've got some sort of like ancient old oak tree that's like Alabama's tree. I went up there and I poisoned it. And the guy on the radio is like, you killed the tree? Well, it ain't dead yet, but it will be. And and sure enough, like, I don't remember exactly what he done, but he like drilled holes into this tree and introduced poison or something. And he killed this
What an asshole.
Dude, it's ruined his life because they found him, of course.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's just denied it. He's like, I said that, but I did not poison that tree.
I did not have sex with that tree. Not a single time. Didn't do it.
I think there's an ESPN like 30 for 30 about this shit. It's ridiculous, the drama that went down over the tree. But dude, you can't replace that. I mean, I guess you can, like you described, but that's incredibly costly. It really is tens and tens of thousands of dollars. It has to be.
So much. Like, but what would happen? But if like a storm came through and knocked their tree onto my house, they would have to, because it's their property. That's their fucking problem, right?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, it always gets complicated, and it's going to be different state by state. And so this is why that specialty is important, because in one state you might have a duty to prune the tree above your own house just to the property line, right? Like, so you can't chop down their tree, but you might have to cut the branch that's looming over your house that poses a danger. In another state, you might not be able to do that. You might have to ask them permission to do it, or they might have a duty to do it. So you really got to kind of get into on a state-by-state basis who has to do this or not. But that's why you always want to check with a competent lawyer in the field of law in your jurisdiction. Of course, the stupid lawyer caveat, but there's a reason for it. And it's because it's different place to place. In Minnesota, triple damages on chopping down a tree. In another state, you might not get triple damages. It might just be single. In a different state, damages may be calculated differently. It might not have to replace it with another tree. You might have to replace it with some comparably aged tree, but it doesn't have to be the same thing or whatever. So
I just need to look up Missouri tree law.
Growing up, I had my dad had 2 neighbors that hated each other. These were next door neighbor farmers. So we're not just talking about adjoining quarter acre lots. We're talking about adjoining property lines that extend for a couple miles of walking. If you're doing a straight line around a whole property, the way it adjoins 100-acre properties that adjoin. One guy's dogs that apparently chased the other guy's livestock, exhausting and killing it thereby. And he felt like he was owed restitution for these dead calves. The other guy's telling him to go fuck himself. So now we hate each other, and there's like thousands of dollars on the ground burnt, essentially, as far as one guy's concerned. And so the other guy, he's like, yeah, he sneaks over here at night, I think. He steals the pins out of my tractors. Because they like little things go missing around his farm that are like little pins on your tractors. Like, what do you do now? Go to the John Deere store? Like, we can't work today? Like it would be a problem if you took all the pins out of somebody's tractor who needed to do work. Yeah. And then my cousin worked for Levi, the man who kept losing the pins to his tractors. And there came a day where he's like, yeah, spray the all the weeds with Roundup, kill all of that over there. And Scott's like, well, what about over there when I get next to Calvin's place? He's like, put it on full blast and kill everything that you can reach over that property line. If you can hit it with that, kill it. And he's just killing 12 feet over the property line. It's dead.
Like, what a douchebag.
The littlest anything they could do back and forth to like if you could dump a pile of shit onto the other guy's property or anything. If you're gonna cut a tree down. They had that property line redrawn by various experts who used varying techniques from multiple times. It's like, no, this guy's bringing the fucking laser in.
Well, because the title of that property, the title search on it, it's 14 feet away from the old fence that runs down perpendicular to the creek.
Walk until you hear the bees.
Yeah. Like you look at some of these things that happened with my wife's grandpa out here owns this. He owned their family farm, which they didn't farm it, but it was an old farm site. And like the deed to this thing was written in fucking Aramaic or whatever. And so they're talking about these reference points that don't exist.
Yeah.
And so they had to go find a guy to solve a property dispute. This guy is 89 years old and he remembers when they wrote it. And he's like, yeah, that's the fence that we used to climb as kids. It was right around here between this tree and this tree. It's like, oh, Jesus, this is what you're relying on. This is how you're drawing property lines.
With an elderly man.
Those old farm properties are like that, though, because they typically stick around, passed down for generations.
A lot of metal pins.
Yeah.
like down here, when I would walk through the woods hunting and stuff, in particular around property lines that maybe didn't even exist anymore, you'd find those pins in the ground sometimes.
Yeah.
And also Indian burial sites. We would find that every now and then, stuff like that. You ever find anything like that, Taylor?
An Indian burial site?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Unless I was just walking over it in the woods and I didn't know.
Yeah.
Remember
we played Tomb Raider. We put our shorts on and we get in there. We dig them up.
Yeah, my friend Dan, we had him on PKA with the divorce story. Kyle, you remember? He found 5 grave sites in a row on his property. They were slaves. They just buried them.
Yeah.
How did he find? Oh, they were like.
When he got them out, did he make them start working again?
How did he know they were slaves?
They were just unmarked
headstones
like this big and obviously they were placed there by a person. And I don't know how he knew, but he looked into it or something.
Did he get them tested genetically? Well,
they didn't.
This is an African person from.
No, they didn't dig them up.
From
they cleared the area and they found the headstone. Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
but it's not much of a tombstone. It's just
damn. I don't think it said the race on the head. Even back then, we were decent enough not to put your race on the headstone.
Yeah, it was mostly crosses and such.
Yeah, they throw your religion up there.
There was nothing but a little square rock type thing with no name on it or anything. Yeah, marker's a better term.
Yeah, I don't think you're allowed to go.
You guys feel sad for the shitty headstones at at
So, like,
cemeteries sometimes.
It's
Where
a
you'll like
measurement
see
of
a
how much you love
really,
them.
you'll see an
Here's the
incredible
problem.
one with like an angel on it or like something,
So-
and then you'll see
Mhm.
one that's like, oh man, like you died in like 2018, man. Like there should be something else here. Like remembering all this stuff from school and like the bake sale reminds me of when I was a junior in high school. There was this like they had this like bullshit like cult, like if you were in Spanish or Spanish 2 or whatever, it was like culture day, and it was meant to be one of those things where like an easy grade boost where they're like, all right, we're gonna you get assigned a South American country and you have to bring like a dish from that or something, and everyone just did like boilerplate bullshit like
Mexican
tortilla
street corn. Let's
chips
go.
and Mexican street corn, like tacos, like all of it was very normal stuff. And there was this one bit of a weirdo. He was a senior, a year older than me, and he was a very popular, like he was a popular kid, like state champion wrestler, like or like in the top couple, like very, very good, like very popular, like, and so you wouldn't have expected this from him. And he got assigned Peru or Brazil or something. And this motherfucker went to Petco and bought a guinea pig
No.
because in Peru they eat guinea pigs, and he murdered, skinned, and cleaned, and then brought a guinea pig dish to school to feed his classmates.
This doesn't happen in New
And
Jersey.
as soon as it like got wind that like, because he was telling people laughing, he's like, yeah, I got a guinea pig. And I remember people being like, did you fucking hear what Jared did? He went to fucking Petco and killed a guinea pig for this. And we were like, dude, this is like, I get he's like, it's kind of funny, but this is fucked up, dude. Like, I can't believe
slaughtered a guinea
he
pig.
slaughtered a guinea pig as soon as Miss Johnson, whoever it was, like heard about that. She like came in, confiscated the food, so the death was in vain. And
Bitch.
and like if anything, let the people eat the food, like so his death wasn't in vain. But yeah, he did get in trouble for. I guess it's illegal to go to Petco and buy something for the purpose of slaughtering it and creating food.
Are you gonna call the FDA? Fuck you.
Yeah,
Miss
what are you gonna
How
do,
is that
dumbass?
illegal?
Yeah,
Why
I don't
when
know.
I bought it, I wasn't
You know
going
what?
to eat it. He's an
This is
asshole.
perfect. We have an attorney here. This was some bullshit some teacher told me, and I've been buying it.
Yeah,
Of
right.
course, it's not illegal to buy a guinea pig and eat it.
We have the FBI running DNA tests on the poo bandit right now. You believe everything those fucks tell you?
I'm a true fool.
Yeah, I can't like. Well, you can't go to PetSmart and buy an animal to eat. Why the fuck not? Like,
It could be
it's
animal
just-
cruelty. He killed it with a shovel.
Okay, that one. I mean,
I don't even
I
know.
mean,
if that's true.
what's the proper method?
yeah. How did
Here's
he
the
shovel
thing.
it to death? Did he
I
smash
know
it with a
this-
shovel?
You strangle it while you look in its
So-
eyes.
So when you read the proper
I'm not
methods,
gonna kink
they
shame.
use they use a bit of legalese to describe hitting something in the head hard or removing the head from the body.
Like
Yeah.
cocking.
Or they'll also use oftentimes CO2 is a fair way to neutralize
I
livestock for
do
those
it.
purposes. So if you did any of that stuff, you get around it. I know I've seen some of that paperwork, and it's like, yeah,
I'm looking at pictures.
yeah, we
of this
just hit him
dish.
in the head.
Have you guys seen this shit? This is amazing. It's a little fried guinea pig. It's the whole damn thing, but it looks like a piece
Yeah.
of chicken.
It's like they love it in Peru. I just checked. It's Peru.
How do you
Yeah,
eat it?
it's called
how do you-
cuy. It's deep fried
Yeah,
Oh,
or roasted.
I did not
and
try any.
They
I
still
kind
have
of
the
want it
head
like
on
Chinese
there.
food, like little pieces of meat, like in Chinese, like a stir fry. You know, some veggies and peanuts or something in there too.
Yeah, he didn't leave it on
Cashews.
the body. He made it.
Oh, fuck off!
That's
Fuck
how
that.
it looks.
That is not how it looks. That has ears.
That's
That has
every
ears.
picture. That's
That's
every
ears
picture.
on
I'm not even joking.
Bro, it has
That's
ears.
the
That's
sexy
Uh,
guinea pig.
Its last thought was, ah!
Wait a minute. Is this fucking for real? I thought it was a joke.
Okay,
Taylor,
that one,
Taylor,
That one's roasted.
it's
It's
not
not
a
a fried.
no,
Taylor,
this
this is what
this
they
actually
look
does
like.
not look like a joke. But like what he did not cook it like this. He like did almost like pulled chickenish kind of looking stuff. That's
Oh,
why
that's
they
so much better.
they didn't immediately know that he used.
Well, of course you don't
guinea
just bring
pig
the carcass in. Like
until he
what kind
bragged
of-
about it.
look. I don't want to dog on it. Peru was it?
Peru.
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. That they're gonna have to work on that one. They're gonna,
It's almost as bad as eating
If your
dogs.
national, I'm okay with your national dish being rat, but y'all got to figure out a better way to prepare that shit.
That is fucking disgusting. It's got
often on a
teeth. They've all
stick.
got teeth.
What would you feel better if they pulled the teeth out, Taylor?
Yes, they cut the heads off and turn it into chicken and make something nice.
Dude, who gets my rat head then? I'm not paying full price.
Dude, I'll trade you my rat head any day of the week.
Who's the scoundrel running off with my rat head? I'm over here paying 89 euro or whatever.
You know that there's some like old grandfather in Peru who like swears that the teeth are the best part. Yeah.
Get the heads.
The same way like my grandpa who was fucking in poverty on a farm, like he still maintains that like pig feet are so delicious. Which I mean, I don't want to try that. I'm sure it's fine.
Look, all that connective tissue when you cook it down is very savory.
Guinea pig.
That's a restaurant?
Yeah. It's a restaurant in Peru advertising their guinea pig.
Can't even bother to like Photoshop the hat well.
No, it's like one of those Andes mountain caps. Like, oh man.
Dude, there is a very specific but somehow difficult to articulate aesthetic to South American photoshopped ads. Do you know what I mean? There's something about it. If I were playing GeoGuessr and there was a South American ad, it's because they're still really into
I
gold.
can tell you tried medium.
Yeah, you tried medium. That shit is so gross. You should not eat guinea pigs.
I wouldn't mind eating that at all.
Go down to Peru and you can just get it. It's all over the place. It's apparently very good. That's what everybody says.
I bet it's good for you.
It is good, but as long as there's not like come on, take the fucking teeth out of there.
Well, you don't eat the teeth.
Then get rid of them.
Look, what if someone said that about crab? Like, Jesus, get it out of that fucking big cockroach first and put it on a platter for me. All
right, check in, mate. You're right.
A lot of the ways I'm seeing is they shove a stick through the mouth of the guinea pig and they roast it on the stick so that you just that's how I would
like an ear of corn.
It. Yeah,
you eat like an ear of corn. I got spine.
You know that like dudes are like, how many you want? 2 or 3. You know that's the kind. It's like chili dogs there. They're like how many?
You wouldn't just eat one if you're gonna eat it.
And I bet there's a restaurant that has their own little spin where it's like, we cook the little ones. You get a sack full. That's how we get them. Like instead of Crystal or Jack in the Box, they sell you.
It's like the veal version. They just hold
the little jalapeno rat poppers, but it's the little pink rats that
you just hold a pregnant guinea pig over a vat of grease and squeeze.
All right. Well, I hate that idea.
Like 55, milliseconds of life before you fall in.
Well, I don't want to eat. I think I'd eat it. I think I'd be okay with it. I don't mind. I'm up for most things.
Would you eat that Filipino thing, balut, where they let the chick start to develop in the egg?
It's a duck embryo. Yes.
Yeah. That's disgusting. You know, when you see like cultures with delicacies like that, and you can objectively say like that's wrong, that's not good. There's no way that's tasty. They just didn't figure out better flavored eggs.
They could have done anything else. That's the thing that like bothers me.
It's got little bones in it.
There's little bones.
You gotta crunch through it.
But they're I hear they're like cartilage. The bones, like they don't.
Yeah,
hurt.
But still, Woody, like it's skull and it's brains and it's got
a little beak that's like barely chewable. I bet just chewable enough that you know exactly when you bite into.
Can you imagine some glutton with a whole pile of baby duck beaks on his plate? Like I walk by to take that away as a server, and I stab him in the throat with a serving knife. This guy's, I gotta get you off the earth, you abominable monster, you Hitler of ducks.
You rip him out.
Of that,
Hitler of ducks.
I'm reading about this. I'm reading about this kui, which is the guinea pig dish from this person. I think they may be a serial killer. So it says inside the kui, incredibly, it's not like pork either. I can only think of something super juicy and rich like quail. It's obvious this is not your average fattened farm meat flavor. Finally, getting into the parts slightly further from the belly, the skin is more chewy, and you have to really pull hard to rip off pieces. It's fun.
All right, he does make it sound fun.
It's fun is where you go with that.
It's kind of like crab. I enjoy eating crab like that.
We got to take a look at that guy.
If crab had like emotive eyes, like if I knew what color a crab's eyes were, it would be harder to do that.